dragon. A goat, 7 horns. Total destruction. Rebirth, a new heaven, a new earth. Revelation has it all. Come join me as I take a walk through the book of Revelation and see what was on John's mind in the island of Patmos. Greetings and salutations. Welcome to another episode of Coffee, the Bible, and Paige. I am Paige, your caffeine-imbued host, and here is my caffeine. In the beginning, coffee, and lo, it was very good. Today we are continuing our journey through Revelations 12. We're going to be doing verses 4 through 17. Let's get right to it. This was an interesting study for me. Verse 4, the dragon's intent. We have a dragon here, folks. It says, its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky, flung them to the earth. The dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth, so that it might devour her child the moment he was born. So, we have a dragon. He intends to kill a woman's child. Let's identify these 3 characters, the dragon, the woman, and the child. Who is the woman? Let's start there. Here in the 12th chapter of Revelation, John looks up and sees something breathtaking. There's a sign, a vision filled with heavenly symbolism. A woman appears in the sky, radiant, majestic. She's clothed with the sun, has the moon under her feet, and wears a crown of 12 stars. She's crying out in labor. She's about to give birth. At first glance, she seems mysterious, but the symbols she bears tells a deeper story. The sun, the moon, the stars, they take us back to a dream Joseph had long ago when he saw his father as the sun, his mother as the moon, and his brothers as stars. That dream wasn't just about his family. It was a picture of Israel, the chosen people of God. In this vision, the woman represents more than just one person. She represents a people. She is the faithful remnant of Israel, the community through which God promised to send Messiah. But she is also more than ancient Israel. She gives birth to a male child, a son destined to rule nations with a rod of iron. That child is clearly Jesus Christ, and when he is caught up to God, resurrected and ascended, the woman flees into the wilderness where God protects her. Now the story deepens. The dragon, that ancient serpent, Satan himself, is enraged. Unable to stop the child, he turns his fury toward the woman. She is given wings to escape into the wilderness, a place prepared by God. Even amid persecution, she is sustained. And then the dragon makes war with the rest of her offspring, those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. This is where we begin to see the fuller picture. The woman isn't just Israel. She isn't just Mary, although Mary certainly stands in her shadow as the one who bore the Messiah. The woman is all of God's covenant people, both the faithful of Israel and the church, birthed through Christ. She is the people of God across time, persecuted, yet protected, vulnerable, yet victorious. She is the church in all its suffering and glory. She is the remnant in the wilderness and the bride waiting for her groom. Through her, God brings forth his purposes in the world. And though the dragon rages, he cannot overcome her because she is hidden in the hand of the Almighty. So the woman in Revelation 12 is not just one figure, but a layered symbol. She's Mary. She's Israel. She is the church. How about the dragon? Who is the dragon? Well, the most prominent interpretation is that this dragon is Satan, and the stars that are thrown down from heaven are the angels that he deceived. I've also read where the stars that are thrown down can refer to earthly rulers that fall to Satan's influence. There's some resemblance to a passage in Daniel chapter 8 where Daniel writes, "Out of one of them came another horn, which started small but grew in power to the south and to the east and toward the beautiful land. It grew until it reached the host of heavens, and it threw some of the starry host down to the earth and trampled on them. It set itself up to be as great as the commander of the army of the Lord. It took away the daily sacrifice from the Lord, and his sanctuary was thrown down." Now, a few clues in this passage include that this entity has as its goal to be as great as the commander of the army of the Lord, meaning he wants to take the place at the head of heaven's armies. This commander, I believe, is Michael the archangel. Look at this passage from Daniel 10. The angel says, "Don't be afraid, Daniel. Since the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come in response to them. But the prince of the Persian kingdom resisted me 21 days. Then Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, because I was detained there with the king of Persia." Look at what we find in Daniel chapter 12. These are some very Revelation-type words. "At that time, Michael, the great prince who protects your people, will arise. There will be a time of distress such as has not happened from the beginning of nations until then. But at that time, your people, everyone whose name is found written in the book, will be delivered. Multitudes who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake, some to everlasting life, others to shame and everlasting contempt. Those who are wise will shine like the brightness of heavens, and those who lead many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever." And then we have here in Jude, verse 8, "In the very same way, on the strength of their dreams, these ungodly people pollute their own bodies, reject authority, and heap abuse on celestial beings. But even the archangel Michael, when he was disputing with the devil about the body of Moses, did not himself dare to condemn him for slander, but said, 'The Lord rebuke you.'" So you add all this stuff up. This dragon has ambitions to be at least as great as Michael the archangel, to be at least as powerful as that archangel. Why? Well, pure speculation here. But it appears to me that Michael has the power to push back on Satan. Perhaps that's it. It seems to me that this has been all about power and influence from the very beginning. Do you remember in the garden? What were the words that Satan, the serpent, used with Eve? Has he, God, really said? See, he is seeking to replace the authority of the Lord with that of his own. That is who this dragon is. He's Satan. He wants to be in command, to sit in God's throne, to supplant the place of the archangel Michael. He wants total dominion, total domination. And the woman and the child, well, they're a threat to that. Now, who's the child? Well, if the woman is Mary, then the baby she's about to give birth to is Jesus, the Messiah. The parallels are undeniable. However, in the spirit of apocalyptic literature, there are layers of meaning. Just as the woman symbolizes Mary and or Israel, the child not only represents Jesus, but it can also represent the church, whose birth mother, if you will, was Israel, Judaism. This depicts the absolute hatred Satan has for Israel, the Messiah, and the church. The destruction of this woman, Israel, and her child, Messiah, and by extension the church, is the focal point of the dragon's rage. Now, verses 5 through 9. "She gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule all the nations with an iron scepter. And her child was snatched up to God and to his throne. The woman fled into the wilderness to a place prepared for her by God, where she might be taken care of for 1,260 days. Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. Now, these verses, Revelations 12, 5 through 9, the amillennial perspective reads this passage not as a sequence of future events, but as a symbolic portrayal of Christ's redemptive mission and the ongoing spiritual struggle between God's people and Satan. The male child born to the woman is Jesus Christ, the promised Messiah foretold in Psalms 2, who is destined to rule the nations with an iron scepter. This child's dramatic rescue, being snatched up to God to his throne, is a vivid symbolic summary of Christ's resurrection and ascension. Rather than a detailed biography, John presents Christ's earthly mission and victory in sweeping cosmic terms, underscoring his triumph over Satan. Now, after the child is taken up, the woman, representing the faithful people of God, is driven into the wilderness. Now, for the amillennialist, this wilderness is not a physical location or a future flight during a time of tribulation. It's instead a symbol of the church's present age, where God's people endure trials, spiritual warfare, and persecution, yet are sustained and protected by God throughout. The 1,260 days is not a literal count, but a symbolic time frame representing the entire church age between Christ's ascension and his return. Now, the passage then shifts to a dramatic vision of war in heaven. Michael and his angels battle the dragon, identified as Satan, and he is cast out of heaven. To the amillennialist, this isn't describing a future heavenly battle, but a spiritual reality already accomplished through Christ's death and resurrection. Now, look at how verse 7 starts with the word then. And then, the scripture says, war broke out in heaven, signifying that what follows takes place immediately after what was just spoken of. You see, Jesus ascends to heaven via death and resurrection, and then war breaks out in heaven. Jesus himself declared in the Gospels that Satan was falling like lightning and that the ruler of this world had been judged. Satan's being hurled down signifies that he has lost his authority to accuse God's people before the throne. His defeat is not yet final, but it is decisive. He now wages war on earth because he knows his time is short. There is the added thought that this is the only battlefield available for him to wage war in now. He's been thrown out of heaven. In summary, the amillennial point of view, Revelations 12, 5 through 9 is not a prophecy awaiting fulfillment. It proclaims his victorious rule, the church's perseverance in a hostile world, and the present spiritual battle in which believers participate, with the assurance that the enemy has already been overcome. Now, the premillennial lens sees a vivid and unfolding prophecy in this Revelation 12, 5 through 9, that blends past events with future fulfillment as part of a larger eschatological timeline leading up to Christ's return and millennial reign. The male child born to the woman is identified as Jesus Christ, the Messiah, destined to rule all nations with an iron scepter. His being snatched up to God and his throne reflects his ascension, a real historical event. However, the emphasis in this passage, from the amillennial point of view, isn't just on history. It's on the way this child, his role as ruler, connects to future prophetic fulfillment. This ruling with an iron scepter is seen as a reference to Jesus' future reign during the millennial kingdom, following his second coming. The woman in this view represents national Israel, not the church. The imagery reflects the nation's role in bringing forth Messiah. So after the ascension of the child, the woman fleeing into the wilderness for 1,260 days is taken literally as a future 3.5-year period during the Great Tribulation. During this time, believing remnants of Israel will be supernaturally protected by God in a specific location, possibly even in a wilderness region such as Petra. This period aligns with the second half of Daniel's 70th week, when Israel faces severe persecution, but is preserved by divine intervention. Then, in this point of view, the narrative shifts to a future heavenly war. Premillennialists believe that this war between Michael, his angels, and Satan and his angels is not symbolic of Christ's resurrection or past spiritual victory. Instead, it is a yet future event that occurs during the end times. This battle will result in Satan being cast out of heaven, no longer having access to the heavenly realm to accuse believers before God. His expulsion marks a turning point in the tribulation period, signaling intensified persecution of God's people on earth as Satan's time grows short. So, from a millennial point of view, Revelations 12:5-9 blends the past mission of Christ with a dramatic future confrontation where spiritual realities spill into world history. Israel's role is central, the conflict is literal and escalating, and the culmination is a direct prelude to Christ's return and his millennial kingdom. In this point of view, we, the church, are currently living in an interim period consisting of the time between the ascension of Christ and the yet-to-occur rapture and the tribulation. Verses 10-17. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven say, "Now have come the salvation and power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brothers and sisters, who accuses them before our God day and night, has been hurled down. They triumphed over him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. They did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death. Therefore rejoice, you heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has gone down to you. He is filled with fury because he knows that his time is short." Well, this is an expanded description of what happened following the resurrection and the return of Jesus to his throne in heaven. For the amillennialist, this describes what happened in the first century. We, the world, and the church have been living in the midst of this since then. The premillennialist will see all of this as lying in the future, occurring during what they call the Great Tribulation, when the fury of Satan is unfettered. In verse 13-17, we go on and read, "When the dragon saw that he'd been hurled to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. The woman was given the 2 wings of a great eagle, so that she might fly to the place prepared for her in the wilderness, where she would be taken care of for a time, times, and half a time, out of the serpent's reach. Then from his mouth the serpent spewed water like a river to overtake the woman and sweep her away with the torrent. But the earth helped the woman by opening its mouth and swallowing the river that the dragon had spewed out of its mouth. Then the dragon was enraged at the woman and went off to wage war against the rest of her offspring, those who keep God's commands and hold fast their testimony about Jesus." All right, in verse 13 here, Satan is seen pursuing the woman who had given birth. If the woman is Israel, who had birthed Messiah, then this describes an all-out assault on the nation of Israel. It shouldn't be hard to see. What nation has experienced more hatred and enmity than Israel? They've been persecuted and hounded even after their country was taken away by Rome in the first century. And following that annihilation of Israel by Rome, Israel still managed to maintain their ethnic and national identity through the centuries, even though they had no nation that they could call home. No ancient civilization can say the same. Where are the Philistines today? Where are the Amalekites? Yet Israel still stands through the centuries. See, the enemy tried to overtake the woman and sweep her away with the torrent, but the woman, Israel, was kept safe. Verses 14-16 describe all of that. In verse 17, we see Satan turning his attention to her offspring, the church. And this is where we now stand, at war against the one who could not overthrow God in heaven and who could not kill Israel. Good place to stop. I'm Paige. Here's my caffeine. Folks, I'm out of here. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Don't forget to join me at www.patreon.com/coffeebiblepage or my website, www.coffeebiblepage.com. Have a glorious and blessed day. Bye-bye.